Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar, Using Social Media to Grow Your Business. For many small business owners and nonprofits, social media can be a tad overwhelming. You have to figure out where to be, how to engage, and how to get results, all with a limited amount of time and resources. Today, we're going to show you how to leverage the power of social media by choosing the right channels for your business and proven strategies to grow your following. I'm Dixie, my co-host is Katrine, and we're from Easy Marketing. We have a lot of great information packed into today. We hope to make it as interactive as possible, so please use the question box to ask us questions. We'll get to as many of those as we can, but if we miss your question or you think of something later, here's our contact information. We'd love to hear from you. And we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We post monthly videos on helpful topics such as this for entrepreneurs, small businesses, and nonprofits. We are celebrating our 23rd year in business. We're located in Northeast Florida with clients throughout the US and abroad. We specialize in website design, email marketing, of course, social media, and graphic design. Our clients range from small little local upstarts to international green companies. So we do a little bit of it all. So when we take on an upstart or when we work with a small business, one of the most common questions we get is, do I need to be on every social media platform? And new ones are popping up all the time. And the answer is no. While it is a good idea to establish a profile on each of the major social platforms, you don't necessarily need to be actively engaged and posting everywhere. If you're just getting started, we recommend choosing one or two platforms to really focus your effort. That way you can figure out what works, what doesn't, and adjust your strategy to get the best results moving forward. So the question then is, how do you choose so many social media platforms out there? Which ones are right for your business or organization? And the answer is going to be different for each of you joining us today. Some important factors are your industry. Who is your target audience? And what types of content are you reasonably able to deliver? Do you have pictures or do you have time to make videos, that sort of thing? Also consider your current expertise level and just the amount of time that you have to devote to it. So we're going to look at some of the top social media channels in turn. And as we do, I want you to think about these different factors, particularly the demographics of your target customer, your ideal best customer. And so you can evaluate which of these channels might be the best fit for your business. So I'll leave it with Katrine.
Yeah, so we are going to start with the founding fathers, four different platforms that, as Dixie just said, you should always set up, even though you might not plan to be on them. Make sure you go in and create a basic account in those and add all the information you can, your contact information, your logo, images, and your website. And then we are talking about Facebook, Twitter, that nowadays are called X, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So let's take a closer look at some of them. The first thing we're going to talk about is what platform is best for you. So I pulled some information yesterday. This was brand new information about what age groups, because that's very often the question, okay, my age group is so and so, where am I going to be? But if you take a look at this, it's not a big difference, except for maybe Snapchat and TikTok. So 50 and over, you can see very few are using Snapchat, Reddit, and TikTok. But for the others, it's kind of the same, and it all depends on your product. But let's dive in and look at each and every one and the recommendations that are usually there for them. So first of all, it's Facebook. There are over 3 billion users, and they average about an hour a day, and it's still the most used and most engaged platform. So So for many small and medium businesses, this is their social media home base. If you are selling goods or services, you can reach and engage a large group of potential customers through Facebook. And if you only have the bandwidth to tackle one social media platform, Facebook is your best bet for all but the very youngest audience. And so far, anyone that wrote in the chat box what you are, your business or organization, none of you have an extremely young audience. And if you are targeting boomers, the money is with money to spend, Facebook's is definitely your platform. So it's ideal for brick and mortar stores, service companies, and nonprofits. Facebook is a great starter platform because it's fairly easy to use and it leads itself to a variety of content, including images, videos, and links. And that being said, hashtags are probably the least effective on Facebook, but it's still important. So I hope you join us in a month where we're going to have a full webinar about hashtags. And Dixie, what is the other thing we're going to cover next month?
And planning out your content.
Yes, planning out the content, exactly. So next is Instagram. So Instagram is said to have a little bit of a younger generation than Facebook, but I think the ones that are a little bit older, like myself, we are catching up, and most people nowadays have both Instagram and Facebook. It is important to understand that Instagram was created as a mobile platform. In the beginning, you could not even pull it up on your computer. It was only in there. And it is heavily dependent on eye-catching photos. So if you have a business where you are not interested in photos and images at all, Instagram is probably not for you. It's really style and theme. Someone should be able to open up your Instagram account and look at those. Usually you see 9 images and they should look like a well-defined collage of images with a theme, with colors and everything. And that time people spend on Instagram is about the same time they spend on Facebook. I have to say, me myself, I spend more time nowadays on Instagram and Facebook. Do you have anything to add about Instagram, Dixie?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking before we got started officially that both Instagram and Facebook are owned by Meta. So these work really well together. I like to think of them as like sister platforms. And sometimes there's a case of having like both a primary and a second audience. I think about a client we had that was a local soccer organization. And so, you know, you got the kids who were like preteens and teens who were the actual soccer players, but the literal soccer moms who are the ones that are going to be, you know, going to the website and signing them up, and the ones that be driving them to the, you know, practices and that kind of stuff. So we use Facebook to reach the soccer moms and then Instagram to reach the teens because that's where they were predominantly. So, you know, there's a case there for, you know, using both simultaneously, and those work well together because like I said, they're both owned by Meta. So it's very easy to cross post content across both of them without taking up too much extra time and resources.
Yes, and the next one is LinkedIn. LinkedIn, just like Facebook and Instagram, you have your personal account, and that's how you always access them. And then you have accounts for the company, like a Facebook page for your company, Instagram for your company, also with LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is more professional driven. It is often business to business. It is much less personal. It is more about showing and discussing your knowledge of different areas. So it's more for the little bit older crowd, and it is a little bit harder because the other two you might see all the time, and then jumping over to Instagram to LinkedIn require you to take a look and see what other companies are doing well. I was at my Rotary meeting this morning, and we just set up a LinkedIn account for the club because Rotary members are often business people. And so even if you're an organization, there might be a place for you on LinkedIn. We have several clients that we only work with LinkedIn. That's the only thing they do. They don't do business to individuals, or one of them actually does, but it's still in LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn, I would highly recommend if you're a business to business company. And one of the most common mistakes we see is people going in and trying to use their personal profile for business use. And I see the temptation, especially if you're sort of a solo entrepreneur, because you think, well, I already have all these friends, or I already have all these followers, or I already have all these connections. But it really is important to get that separate business profile or separate business page on each of these accounts. Because we want to keep them separate. We don't want to see your photos of your family on the beach on your LinkedIn account. You need to keep that professional, but also because it's an asset that the business owns. And if you're ever going to grow your business, bring on more people, sell the business, then that's a separate asset that needs to be there as a separate entity.
Yes, and that's where you show your expertise and discuss different areas within your expertise. Okay, let's jump on to X or Twitter. And that is another, it's a little bit more of a commitment. Images, they do allow that nowadays, but it is very quick. It's a fast-moving, real-time, news-driven platform. You will see a lot of retailers and nonprofits doing well with X because it's engaging, and you don't need beautiful photos or graphic, and it's require a kind of low level of expertise, but again, it is a commitment.
Absolutely.
Yes. And then, of course, there are several others depending on your industry and your age groups. We talked about Snapchat, and TikTok is by far the youngest ones. Pinterest is really strong for certain groups, and Pinterest is like Instagram, highly visual, and it's most product focused of the different social media. It's very heavy on females. It's like 80% here in the US are females using Pinterest. So think hair, makeup, interior design, wedding, travel, photography. They do really well. And then you have YouTube. YouTube, whenever you do a video of any kind, make sure you put that on your YouTube channel, and make sure you put text with everything, because YouTube is actually the second largest search engines. People are, if they don't search on things in Google, they actually search in YouTube. So don't forget that part.
And for the youngins.
And for the young ones. And then, so you can do as much as you want to, but remember, Facebook is number one. But then you can also you can also do cross-platform examples. So Dixie, will you talk about the next image here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Logo.
Yeah, so for those of you that are going to be using more than one platform, you have to keep in mind that they're not all the same. You might be posting similar content, but it might have to look different or have a different feel. So the examples here are all from one of our clients, AR Group, that is like an executive recruiter, and they work in the insurance space. So, it's a fairly conservative look they have going there. But these are 4 different posts that we did on different platforms. And the reason why I'm showing this to you is because the size ratios are different, right? So for some platforms, we might need a square. On other platforms, more of a rectangle shape might work well. On Instagram, for example, there are no clickable links. The only place that can click a link is in your bio. So it's great for building an audience because it's really heavy on the hashtags, but it's not great for direct sales because you can't just show somebody a picture of your product or service and they can't just click to buy right then. So that's kind of another example of why like using multiple platforms can be important for your business. But I just wanted you to see how even though they might have a slightly different look or a slightly different message, that you want to be cohesive across your platforms. We're using the same color scheme, we're often using the same fonts, that kind of stuff. You want when people see your message in different places that it looks like it all came from the same business. All right, so once you have decided on the right platform or 2 or 3 for your business, the next step is really how do you grow your following? Because the more people that are seeing your message, the more likely it is to impact your bottom line. Think about it this way. If you're spending time posting and tweeting and no one's out there listening, you're sort of speaking into the abyss and not really effectively growing your business. So one question that we get all the time, so we're just going to address this head on, is about paying for followers. There are a lot of services out there that are going to contact you and say, you can buy 1,000 followers for say $20. And they're not all scams. Some of them do in fact produce followers. But unfortunately, those followers are rarely real people. They're usually either bots or inactive accounts. And the problem with that is that these social media platforms have algorithms that decide how much of your content to promote based in part on engagement. And so if you have all these fake followers and they're never liking or commenting or sharing, that drags down your engagement rate. And that in turn is going to keep real people from seeing your content. It also, worst case scenario, can get your account banned if they suspect you of trying to sort of beat the system. So it's not worth it. Don't try to artificially pad the numbers. Instead, we're going to share some proven strategies for attracting loyal and long-term followers. So first, the easy things. You want to go in and give your account a good self-check. If it's been a minute since you set up your account, or if you weren't 100% sure what you were doing, let's look at them again through fresh eyes. Users are going to have to go through the profile area to follow you, so it is essential that that part is optimized. You want to make sure that your username is search friendly, and ideally you would have the same username across all platforms. So ours is at Easy Marketing. So you could do facebook.com/easy marketing, LinkedIn/easy marketing. It's the same on all platforms if you can get that. You want to make sure it's search friendly. You want to make sure that that profile image is high quality and easily recognizable. So this is typically going to be your logo in either a square or a round version. Unless you are like an influencer, we typically don't recommend that you use a picture of your face. The only exceptions might be if you're a solo entrepreneur in a super high touch industry, like say you're a realtor, maybe that makes sense for you. But in the vast majority of cases, we want a square or round version of your logo. You need this bio to make a great first impression. On Instagram, for example, you only get 150 characters in the bio, so it really has to be succinct and impactful. You're going to tell them what you do and why you are the best. You want to make sure, of course, that people can find you online and on land. So you're going to make sure all your contact information is correct, that you have your website address in there. And if you're not sure what makes a great profile, go look at your competitors. Even check out the big brands in your vertical for inspiration. Next, once you have that profile optimized, you want to make sure that you are cross-promoting your social media accounts. That is an easy and free way to use the tools that you already have at your disposal to help grow your following. So make it easy for people to follow you by having links to your socials on your website, on your blog, even in your email signature. These are sort of passive ways that you could be cross promoting your channels. But you also need to actively ask your customers and leads and donors and volunteers that you work with. If you have a LinkedIn account, ask your LinkedIn connections to follow you on Instagram and vice versa. If you are a brick and mortar, put up a little sign there by the register with a QR code. Train your employees to mention it. If you have a nonprofit, definitely put up a banner at your fundraising events and add it to your speakers' talking points. And hopefully, all of you are using email marketing. And if you are, definitely include a blurb in your emails and your newsletters asking contacts to follow you on social media to get more information about the topic at hand or to keep up or for things about your upcoming events. Of course, the most important thing is to attract followers by posting high quality content. So remember that most of the social media platforms, with the exception of like Threads or X, are going to be highly visual, and that the majority of users are going to be viewing your content on these tiny little cell phone screens. So you really need your posts to be bold, eye catching, because people are scrolling fast. So like this is a great example from a client of ours who's serving women in crisis. It's just a really bold image, not a lot of text. You want to stop for a second and see what is that about? To gain followers, your page has to be active, which means that you're going to be posting consistently. How often depends on the different platforms. Some of them, like X, you could do multiple times a day, something like Facebook less, but aim for 3 times a week, is what I say. If you're strapped for time, tell yourself, I'm going to do it 3 times a week at these specific times, and that'll be enough to keep it going. You also want to make sure that your content provides value for followers. So, of course, you're going to post about your products or services and your special offers, but you really want 80% of what you post to be content that is informative, entertaining, engaging. So, you can post like behind the scenes photos at your organization, like unboxing videos. They love a good, like, 5 steps to do this or a how-to video, even inspirational quotes. Just don't think of your socials as like a sales circular where you're just posting ads, but rather more like a resource for potential and current customers. It's also important to look for opportunities to join the broader discussion. So you can piggyback on current events, trending hashtags, internet holidays. The Super Bowl was just happening. Maybe you're talking about, some of the ads. Um, and finally, make sure that you're posting when your followers are online. So if you're a night owl like me, and you're up at 2 a.m., don't post then. No one's online. Post it when your followers are online, and we're going to cover more about scheduling in next month's webinar. So once you're directing people toward your social media channel, you want to think more about how you're using it. Social media is not this billboard where you post a bunch of flyers. It is a community, and you have to engage with people to grow that community. So one solid strategy is a follow back strategy. I mean, you go out there and follow a bunch of people in the hopes that they will follow you back, and that grows your account. And it works pretty well. 14% of users, if you follow them, they'll follow you back, no questions asked. So that's an immediate gain if you're trying to start or grow a channel. But it's more important to gain the right followers. So let's say if your business is cleaning pools and you gain 1,000 followers, that's awesome. But if 95% of them don't have a pool, you're not really doing much for the bottom line. So you want to try to follow users who are likely to be interested in your products and services. So you can start by following your competitors' followers, then branch out to similar industries, other local businesses, if you're like a local brick and mortar, fan pages, influencers, things like that. If you want to up your odds, go to that person's account and either like or comment on their post first. And then they're much more likely to follow you back. So instead of 14%, now a third of people, if you've made a like or comment first, now a third of people will follow you back. So that's a pretty good return investment on your time. Just don't go in and do them all at once. I would say 50 max. Otherwise, you could get flagged for spam. It's also important to show up and engage in real conversations on your page. So respond to every comment. One of our clients is a global green energy company, and there's a lot of support for green energy out there, but also some detractors. But they're committed to educating the public and answering every single comment and every single question on every post. And finally, we recommend that you engage with other accounts with a similar audience that you're looking to attract. So think about related organizations, celebrities, influencers, businesses in your local community. If you leave helpful or thought-provoking comments on other accounts, that's a good way for new, fresh eyes to sort of discover you.
Yeah, and one thing to add here is that if you are brand new or you really feel that you need to get more engaged, it is important that you follow the best in your industry. So if you are one of the people that don't want to use this on a personal level, that is absolutely fine. You don't need to say anything about yourself. You don't need to make any of your neighbors or family friends. You can use your account simply to check out, because the more you follow good social media content, the better you will be at it. And so looking at your phone at night, if you're checking out your competition and how to better do social media, that is not a waste of time.
We're going to be getting to questions in just a moment. So if you have some, this is a good time to get those in the chat box and we'll get those queued up. But we did want to kind of preview what we're going to be talking about next month. Typically by this point of the presentation, some of us are getting overwhelmed thinking, how am I going to post this high quality, engaging content 3 times a week in one or more channels? Not to worry. We're called Easy Marketing for a reason. We like to make things easy. So we use kind of a 3-step approach to help you, which is to identify key focus areas, create a content calendar, get it all organized and planned in advance, and then to schedule those posts in advance. So you're not showing up today thinking, what am I going to post today? We're scheduling them in advance at the optimal time when the majority of people are going to be online and able to see and interact with our post. So we're going to cover all of that in next month's webinar. It's sort of part 2 of our social media. We're also going to cover my favorite topic, hashtags. So misused, so misunderstood. We're here for the hashtags. We're going to cover what they are, how they work, and really how to use them effectively, because it can dramatically increase the reach of your posts. So we'll see you next month for that.